Death, nowadays, is easy to have. Only 50 years ago, small weapons were difficult to get in the so-called Third World. Today, small weapons are plentiful in every conflict and war-torn country. Their massive use has fundamentally changed how conflicts are carried out and has sharply increased the number of deaths. For the most part, the victims are innocent people. In Africa, illegal weapons are having a disastrous impact on traditional warfare, like the war being fought between the Pokot tribe and the Turkana people in Kenya. Since time immemorial, the Turkana and the Pokot have fought each other for their livestock. International aid organizations have been trying for years to mediate in these conflicts. But to really influence the situation, one has to get to the root of the problem. The Turkana village of Kapale Bok in northwestern Kenya. Kapale Bok has been attacked a number of times. The last assault was only a few weeks ago. Simon Locorio was among the victims. During the attack, the 54-year-old father of 8 children lost his house and virtually all his cattle. Now he must find a new home and a new means of subsistence.
The Pokot came around 10 o'clock at night. Some of the children were still playing outside. Then the children came shouting that the village was under attack. When we looked, they immediately opened fire. There were so many of them. They began to set fire to the huts, which in no time went up into flames. They wanted to burn down everything, but one of them said, "Don't burn the people, take only the cattle." So they rounded up the animals and drove them away. When they were just about to leave the village at the other end, they found 2 children playing and just killed them.
Simon's family was spared, but he does not know how to feed them. Of the 18 goats he once owned, only 1 was left to him. To the people in Kapale Bok, animals are their most precious possession. Now, they not only fear for their survival, but also more attacks.
I no longer feel safe here. The Pokot may return any time, even at this moment, day or night. Just yesterday, we saw some of them again near the village, but they pulled back in the morning. Perhaps they were only spying. We saw their footprints near the animals, but they didn't take them this time. But we reckon they may return to attack us again anytime soon.
In this region, the international aid organization World Vision has initiated the peace project Maputo, with funds from the German government. Eki Forberg is one of the German facilitators. Together with his Kenyan colleagues, he's trying to reconcile the Turkana and the Pokot people by organizing so-called peace rallies between the warring tribes. After a village has been attacked, the villagers often plot revenge, and violence can easily escalate. Simon is rather cautious.
The man I just talked to told me that in the past, when they sat together with the Pokot, they were often attacked, even during the very same night. That shows how big the mistrust has grown on both sides, with the Turkana as well as with the Pokot. And right now it seems very, very difficult to bring both sides together for a peace rally.
The people of Kapale Bok react with refusal. Too fresh are the wounds, too painful the hurt from the last Pokot attack. This is especially true for Ekeno Lobe and his wife Esther Adipo. They are the parents of 2 murdered children. That evening, Ekeno was visiting relatives while Esther was already asleep. The children sneaked out of the hut, probably to play. The loss of their 6-year-old son Justin and their 3-year-old daughter Sarah has completely derailed the lives of Ekeno and Esther.
I hate the Pokot. Sometimes I feel like going crazy. My life is total confusion. I don't know where I belong to. Nobody will give me back my son and my daughter. Perhaps we just leave this place, go somewhere else. If I could get my hands on a Pokot, I know I'd take revenge on him.
The Turkana and the Pokot have always stolen their cattle from each other, but now they attack innocent people. I don't understand why the warriors don't kill each other instead of killing women and children. Pokot and Turkana must be disarmed, otherwise there will be no peace in this region.
Normally, the government does too little too late in regions like Turkana or Pokot. For the village of Kapalibok, they have at least sent 3 armed security men. But in case of a major attack, they could do little to defend the village. The area where the Turkana and the Pokot live is close to the border with Uganda. It is one of the poorest regions in Kenya. In these vast valleys, the soil is as dry as a bone, the heat merciless, and the people's everyday life is a constant fight for survival. Turkana and Pokot live in small and simple settlements, scattered over a vast area. The members of their tribes number tens of thousands. Most of them are subsistence farmers and herdsmen. But the idyllic scene is deceptive. Since time immemorial, they have been fighting each other. The reason? The cattle, the basis of their existence. To prove their manhood and their bravery, the young Turkana and Pokot warriors have to attack their enemies and steal their cattle. For most of the Turkana and Pokot, the day's hard work begins even before sunrise, to avoid the heat of the day. Esther Adipo and the other women of Kapalibok are working on an irrigation system to increase the fertility of the soil. Later, they intend to plant maize and other crops on this cleared area. Each village has its clear tasks: cultivate the soil, herd the cattle, or gather firewood, which is also needed to produce charcoal. Very important, a water supply. The riverbeds in the valley carry water only during the rainy season. Without assistance from the capital city or foreign countries, many of these villagers are trying to help themselves to make ends meet. But they can work only by taking the necessary precautions to ensure their safety, a task for the warriors in the village. All too often, a modest success is frustrated by another attack, and in recent months, the situation has worsened on both sides. About an hour's drive away from the Turkana village of Kapalibok is this little Pokot village called Riting, right beside the artificial lake of Kasitei. This is where the 32-year-old Joshua Lashakamoli lives, together with his 2 wives, 2 mothers-in-law, his father, and his 7 children. In early December, there were 8 of them, until the attack of the Turkana.
The Turkana came very early in the morning and started shooting around. They killed my 5-year-old son, Joseph. Then they took all the livestock and disappeared with them. I lost 48 animals. This is no longer a safe place. The Turkana come back again and again.
Joshua, like most of the Pokot, makes a living from cattle breeding. But the increase in violent attacks has disrupted the safety of these communities, threatening the lives and existence of their people. If the government remains inactive, the rule of law will be replaced by the rule of the Kalashnikov. An easing of the tension appears ever more difficult. Joshua, too, is feeling the pressure from other villagers and from his own family.
I'm convinced it would be better not to think of revenge. But the others in the village say I must take revenge so we can eat again. For as it is now, we'll starve to death. That's why we have all decided that revenge is needed.
The effects of the conflict on the communities are apparent from this former school compound in Loyapat, back in the Turkana area. For more than 5 years, this school has been abandoned and allowed to decay. Some 1,500 pupils used to attend classes here. But the school, established by the Kenyan government, is located right within the border area between the Turkana and the Pokot. at the very center of the conflict. Former school employee Eregai Ekiyeyes recounts.
Again and again, the Pokot attacked the school in the late 90s. They killed and injured our people. Many villagers around here left the area. The Pokot took everything they could carry and destroyed the building. Later, the community erected a makeshift shelter on the compound so the children could at least have classes again. But 2 years ago, that too was destroyed. Since then, there are a few security men here to guard the border. But even now, we see footprints of people who spy out the area at night. Now the children can only attend elementary school. There is no longer a secondary school in the area.
To learn more about the background of this conflict and about the illegal possession of automatic weapons, the World Vision workers penetrate deeply into the Pakot district. They have arranged an early morning meeting by the river with a band of young warriors. A somewhat delicate situation, and nobody can foresee how they will be received. Eki Forberg and his Kenyan World Vision colleagues are feeling uneasy. They don't know how these heavily armed men will treat them. Eki Forberg has arrived a little early. The waiting begins. A while later, something starts to happen. A huge cattle herd approaches the banks of the river. The river is far and wide the most important place to get water, so herds come from many villages to drink. To the people in this region, their cattle is their highest good. They are their wealth, their status, their financial security. They not only serve as food, but also as an emergency reserve for times of need. They trade with cattle. Important goods such as automatic weapons are paid for with cattle. And if a young man wishes to marry a beautiful girl, he has to be able to pay a few cows or oxen as his dowry. While the World Vision workers are still observing the animals, the first warriors appear at the river. Their task is to protect the cattle while they drink. The soldiers were notified of this visit, but at first they seem a bit suspicious. But after a few minutes of eyeing each other, the ice is broken. Heavily armed warriors suddenly turn into playful children. The young warriors are between 14 and 25 years of age. Unlike many child soldiers, these fighters have voluntarily chosen their vocation. The alternative would have been farming or cattle breeding. Kaluka Ngazere is their leader. The 38-year-old enjoys the full respect of his men. When he appears, they all become quiet and disciplined. Kaluka leads a unit of about 80 warriors, taken from the villages in the area. Once they have been with the group long enough and have proven themselves to be brave fighters, they are given automatic weapons. In Kaluka's unit, almost all the soldiers have Kalashnikovs. Many of Kaluka's men are still very young. This candidate warrior is only 12 years old. Eki Forberg wants to find out more about the origin of those weapons. With the assistance of the chiefs of the region, he succeeds in gaining the trust of the young warriors. Kaluka freely tells him about their everyday life, but when Forberg broaches the subject of the weapons, Kaluka gets very cautious, providing information only upon persistent inquiry.
It's very simple. We send word across the Ugandan or Sudanese border to our contact men. Soon thereafter, they bring the weapons at night to a secret place where they're handed over. One weapon cost us 4 to 5 cows. We could get all sorts of weapons, but the Kalashnikov is very handy. It's easy to operate, very effective, easy to transport and to clean, and it lasts long.
Regions like Turkana and Pokot suffer from the delayed effects of earlier political mistakes made elsewhere. Years ago, the superpowers sold automatic weapons to the conflicting and neighboring states of Somalia and Ethiopia. Today, the weapons are no longer needed and have flooded the black market. The weapons carried by these young warriors include the German G3 automatic rifle. Germany is one of the major export nations for small arms. G3s are also used by the Kenyan police, and it's difficult to trace the path through which these weapons get into the hands of these men. The bodies of these warriors bear many strange scars. They are telling proof of the kind of people they are.
When fighting with our enemies, it happens